In the freezing snow, a tiny puppy hurled itself in front of a police cruiser, crying, clawing, and refusing to move. Officer Jack Morgan slammed the brakes, his heart leaping as the vehicle skidded to a stop, just inches from the trembling little figure. The pup was barely the size of a football, soaked to the bone, its paws raw and bleeding. But what happened next would haunt Jack forever. The puppy didn't run. Instead, it limped forward and clawed at Jack's leg desperately, frantically, eyes wide with fear and something deeper, pleading. Something was wrong, very wrong. With the snow whipping around him and his breath fogging in the air, Jack stepped out of his cruiser and followed the puppy into the woods. What he discovered moments later would leave even the toughest officers in tears. Because buried in the snow just beyond the bend was a sight so heartbreaking it would change Jack's life and the life of one loyal dog forever. The puppy didn't wait. As soon as Officer Jack Morgan took one cautious step forward, the little dog let out a high-pitched whine, spun around, and took off down the snowy embankment. His tiny paws disappeared into the deep snow, leaving behind a winding trail of red-stained prints. He would run for a few feet, then pause, turning his head just enough to make sure Jack was following, then dart forward again with renewed urgency. Jack's instincts screamed that this wasn't just a lost dog trying to survive. This was a rescue mission. He trudged after the pup, boots crunching against frozen earth, heart pounding in his chest. The snow was getting thicker, and the wind sliced through his uniform like knives. But the puppy pushed forward without hesitation, weaving between pine trees and ducking beneath low-hanging branches, as if he'd memorized this path, like he'd run it before, over and over, hoping someone would finally follow. "Where are you taking me, little guy?" Jack muttered, his breath fogging in the cold air. The forest grew darker, denser. The only sounds were the howling wind, Jack's labored breathing, and the occasional bark from the brave little guide ahead. Suddenly, the puppy stopped. He turned to face Jack, chest-heaving, ears pinned back, then gave one desperate yelp before vanishing behind a snowbank. Jack broke into a run, because whatever lay beyond that ridge, he could feel it in his bones. It wasn't just urgent, it was life or death. Jack crested the snowbank, lungs burning, his boots slipping on the ice beneath him. And then he saw it, and everything inside him froze. There, half buried beneath a drift of snow, lay a full-grown German shepherd. She was barely more than a shadow against the white. Her body was curled into itself, as if trying to stay warm, her fur caked with snow blood and dirt. One front leg was stretched out, awkwardly wrapped in what looked like a torn piece of flannel someone had tried to help her. The fabric was soaked through with blood, staining the snow crimson beneath her. Her sides moved in shallow, shaky breaths. Her eyes fluttered open at the sound of Jack's footsteps, glassy, dull, and full of pain. Before Jack could even take a step, the puppy barreled into view. With a tiny whimper, he threw himself against the mother's side, burying his little face into her neck. She let out a low, broken whine and moved just enough to lick his ear once. That single gesture, so faint, yet so full of love, hit Jack harder than any call he'd ever answered. He dropped to his knees beside them, his throat tightening. "Hang in there, girl," he murmured gently, brushing snow off her face. "You're not alone anymore." With shaking hands, he pulled off his thick patrol jacket and draped it over her fragile body. She didn't resist, just let out a weak sigh as the warmth sank in. The puppy curled even tighter against her, as if trying to keep her anchored to the world. Jack grabbed his radio voice, trembling. "Dispatch, this is Officer Morgan. I've got an injured adult shepherd, possible hypothermia and blood loss. Requesting immediate animal rescue. Please hurry." The snow kept falling, but now so did Jack's tears. The snow fell heavier now, swirling around them in frantic gusts that stung Jack's face and blurred his vision. He knelt in the freezing slush, both hands pressed firmly against the shepherd's bleeding leg, trying to stem the flow. Her breathing was ragged, shallow inhales, broken by soft, whimpering exhales. Her body trembled beneath his coat, each tremor weaker than the last. "Stay with me, Jack," whispered, bending closer. "You've come this far. Don't give up now." The puppy hadn't moved an inch. He remained curled against her tiny body, radiating what little warmth he had, left his muzzle pressed into her chest. Every now and then, he'd let out a faint, helpless whine, like he was begging her not to leave. Jack's gloves were soaked through. He couldn't feel his fingers anymore, but he didn't dare let go. His heart hammered in his chest. The minutes dragged by like hours. He kept talking, trying to keep her conscious. "You're going to be okay, girl. Help is coming. Just hold on." But deep down, a gnawing fear grew. What if help didn't come in time? He glanced around wildly, praying for the glow of headlights through the trees. But the road was empty, just white silence and wind. His throat tightened. He grabbed the radio again, hand shaking. "Dispatch, this is Unit 12. I need that rescue now." "She's fading fast." His voice cracked, the desperation bleeding through. "Please, she won't make it much longer." There was a long pause before the static crackled back. "Copy that, Unit 12. ETA 5 minutes. Hold on. 5 minutes. Jack looked down. The shepherd's eyes were barely open now, her breaths growing slower, spaced out by long, terrifying silences. The puppy whimpered louder, nudging her face, licking at her muzzle, as if trying to pull her back. Jack leaned closer, voice hoarse. "Hey, look at me. You're not done yet. You've got someone who needs you." A gust of wind howled past, scattering snow like ash over the clearing. Jack tightened his grip and whispered again, pleading, willing her to survive. Because now this wasn't just a rescue, it was a fight against time and death. Through the thick veil of snowfall, a faint glow pierced the tree's headlights. Jack's heart leapt in his chest. He turned toward the road just in time to see 2 vehicles crunch to a halt on the icy shoulder. Doors flew open. A local veterinarian team and animal control officers rushed out, bundled in heavy coats, carrying thermal blankets and a heated crate. "Over here," Jack shouted, waving them down. The rescuers hurried to the scene, their boots sinking into the snow. One of them, a woman with silver-streaked hair and kind eyes, dropped to her knees beside the mother dog. She gently peeled back Jack's coat and examined the wound. "She's cold, but there's still a pulse. She's got a chance," she murmured. 2 men unfolded a padded stretcher. As they lifted the shepherd, she let out a weak cry, and immediately the puppy yelped. He scrambled after her paws, slipping in the snow, trying desperately to reach her side. Jack's reflexes kicked in. He reached down and scooped the trembling pup into his arms, pressing him against his chest. "Shh. It's okay, little guy," he whispered, his voice breaking. "She's going to be okay. They're going to help her now." The puppy whimpered, curling into Jack's coat nose buried beneath his collar. His tiny body quivered with fear and cold, but somehow he understood. His mother wasn't gone, she was being saved. The rescuers gently secured the mother inside a heated crate, wrapping her in layers of blankets. One of them looked up at Jack and nodded. "She's a fighter. We'll do everything we can." Jack let out a shaky breath, a wave of relief washing over him. He looked down at the pup in his arms. "You did good, buddy," he said softly. "You really did." And for the first time that morning, hope finally outweighed fear. 3 days later, Officer Jack Morgan stepped into the warm glow of the Pine Ridge Veterinary Clinic. The scent of antiseptic mingled with hay and clean fur, a welcome contrast to the biting cold from that unforgettable morning. He paused at the door to the recovery room, heart thudding in his chest. Inside, nestled on soft bedding, the mother German shepherd rested peacefully. Her front leg was carefully bandaged, and though she looked tired, her breathing was strong. Her ears perked slightly as Jack entered her eyes, fluttering open with quiet recognition. Before he could take another step, a blur of fur and wagging tail came racing toward him. The puppy, now clean-fed and full of energy, bounded into Jack's arms with a joyful yelp. Jack laughed, surprised at the sudden warmth in his chest. He knelt down beside the mother dog, placing a gentle hand on her head. "She made it," the vet said softly from behind him, her smile warm. "Thanks to her little guardian angel. And you." Jack looked from the pup to his mother, then back again. He didn't hesitate. "You're both coming home with me," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. That simple promise sealed something unspoken, a bond forged in snow struggle and sacrifice. It was more than rescue, it was redemption. In one silent moment, 3 hearts had found a home. Love, loyalty, and a cry in the snow had saved them all. The story of the tiny puppy braving the freezing snow to save his injured mother is more than just heartwarming. It's a profound reminder of what unconditional love and loyalty can accomplish. In a world that often feels cold, fast-paced, and disconnected, This tale teaches us that even the smallest act of courage driven by love can lead to life-saving miracles. The puppy had no words, no strength, and no certainty, only the unwavering instinct to fight for someone he loved. And that was enough. It found a human willing to stop to care and to act. Together they changed the outcome of what could have been a quiet tragedy. In our daily lives, we are often so consumed with responsibilities that we overlook cries for help, some loud, some silent. But this story reminds us that compassion is powerful, that showing up, listening, and responding with kindness can change not just a moment, but a life. Sometimes it's not about being the strongest or the fastest. It's about being there. And like the puppy in the snow, we all have the power to be a lifeline for others, and perhaps even for ourselves.